Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia City Council Committee of the Whole meeting. This is a regularly scheduled Committee of the Whole meeting. We'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, November 17th, 2020. The time is 9:04 a.m. We'll on the phone lines we have participating in Zoom is Councilor Paulson and Councilor Beyondich. We also have our library director on the line and our city clerk our city clerk Pamela Bean. And so with that being said, I'll turn up the agenda over to our city administrator, Britt Seabenes. Britt?
Review PCO number 10, access control from DSGW for the MEC project. And we do have Brian Silver, our Park and Recreation Director, here also.
Brian, good morning.
Good morning, Council.
And I see you have with you today DSGW, Mr. Webb, and Mr. Eric Wedge, and then we have Mr. Wirtz from Cross Anderson.
Yes, I did bring backup to help answer any questions that you may have.
Okay.
What this change order is, if you remember when we were beginning the project, we discussed there were 3 different change orders. This change order is one of the owner-requested change orders. What we are looking at doing is upgrading our doors and the door hardware so that we can add access control to many of the doors throughout the building, which is why this is a little bit on the expensive side, is because we're adding electric components and conduit and changing some of the door frames throughout the building. This will allow us to have a better control of the building, minimizing keys, eliminating the need to hand out keys to different people. They would have a access control card that they'd be able to swipe through to get throughout the building. Also gives us the ability to monitor which doors have been used by which people, providing additional security for the building in the event that something does happen in the building. If it's not caught on cameras, we would be able to see which card was used to access which door. So this is one of those upgrades that we were looking at being able to do if the budget allowed, and at this point we believe the budget definitely does allow us to add on this access control. Now keep in mind, this is not the only charge that we would have to be able to do this access control. In part of our FF&E budget, we will be going out to bid for the actual access control system. It would be a similar system to that which is being installed here in City Hall by Permar, those to control the access of the different doors. We do not have a contractor under contract for that at this point because it will need to go out to bid. This is just preparing the physical building. At this point, it's the right time to be doing that, to be ready to, and for the building to be equipped to handle an access control system that we want and desire.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. I have one quick question. As we move forward, and once this is, if we move forward with this, this is a computerized card access system, similar to what they have at the metropolitan airports, which I was very familiar with, worked on it for a long time as part of that design team for computerized control access. And you explained about how you can control the cards, the times people go in and out of there, those kind of things. And it's difficult to control access when you have one person using their card and then 5, 6 different people going through. So you have to have some kind of a policy that restricts that one card, one person, or guests or whatever thing, and I understand that. But the question that I have is that when we go to these kind of systems, you will be looking at whatever the bid process is. So is it going to be an internal control system by who's going to issue the cards, who's going to change the time frame of these cards can be used, who's going to have the badge control system, how is that going to operate? I'm sure you're going to be talking about that later on down the road, but this is just to approve the conduit and the wiring system and all the necessary hardware needed to eventually go out for bids. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yeah, I also point out before we go any further, this also is if you go to a lot of facilities, you'll see the fire alarm panel. If you
Right.
push this door, the alarm goes off. That same kind of door will be also on some of these doors.
Yeah.
They'll have no access from the outside, but they'll have the fire alarm push bar that as soon as somebody pushes that door open, the alarm goes off. We know that.
The DTEX controlled alarm system, right?
Correct.
Okay,
And then
very
also
good.
the door contact system, so that we would know doors that should not be opening to the boiler room, those kinds of things are opened. Somebody opened that door, it'll have an alarm system going on.
Very good, thank you. Thank you very much, Britt. Let's go, Counselor Paulson, any questions about item number 1 on the committee of the whole agenda?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I think it's prudent that we look into this because I feel like it's going to grow probably big enough where we're going to have a system like this. So I appreciate, Brian, you bringing this forward.
Counselor Beyondich?
No, I'm good as well. Thank you for the explanation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I was under the understanding that this was always part of what we were doing, because when we were discussing having the new lock system that's being put in place now in City Hall and other buildings, I know we talked about, and it's going to be at the miners also. So I'm a little concerned that this is an add-on and this hasn't been planned since the very beginning. I would think in a state-of-the-art building, I know we talked about this prior to the building when we were going through and taking the tours, that this kind of system is important to have. And I know that's prior to you, Brian. So I'm a little concerned about that. On the page from the Kraus Anderson Construction, and it's not numbered, but it's this is where it has metal door frames, entrance, storefronts, electric panel. Why are we getting a $22,000 bill for metal door and frames when we already have metal doors and frames everywhere?
Let me start by answering first question. What this is upgrading the system. We already had multiple doors that had this system. At this point, with our contingency budget being favorable, we are expanding this system. So the system was already in place. We're just making the system larger to be able to control more portions of the building, which was not done initially due to, if you remember, before we went out to bid, we were concerned with where the bids would come in. So we didn't want to put a bid package out that would come in exceeding our money that we had. At this point, since bids came in favorable, we've been able to evaluate expanding that system. And I will turn over the second half of your question to both Eric and Pat to answer.
Thank you.
Pat? Yeah, Pat from Kraus Anderson, Pat Wertz. Good morning.
Morning. So you questioned the metal doors and the frames. Yes. So that includes going to electric latches, hollow metal frame preps for different items like that. So there's a lot of various different components. I didn't provide a breakdown, a list of all the hardware in this. If you want to see that, I can.
I guess
That's part of the upgrades that Brian was talking about as well.
it just having the information and reading metal doors and frames implies that we didn't have metal doors and frames before. So is this a higher quality door frame? Is it, I guess I'm trying to understand why there's $22,000 for something that apparently we already had.
Part of the description, I guess, to go through, when we call it our work scopes to go for bid, that work scope is called metal doors and frames. So that comprises of all your door hardware and all the different components to go through. So you always had your metal doors and frames, but now you upgrade, like Brian mentioned, so you have different preps for all of your security access, and when they send the frames on site, and the electric latches, et cetera.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense to me. I appreciate that.
If you want, like I said, yeah, some of those descriptions, I guess they're vague to.
This
some people,
goes
people do it
to
every single day.
contractor speak, to general public
Yes.
speak. And
Yes.
so and I just need to clarify that. And I appreciate, I know this is something that allows for, it is interesting to see the list of doors here, though. I do appreciate that being in here, of all the things that are gonna be done. So I do think that it's, I know that we need to do it, and it's something that will allow for safety in the future as we continue to move forward. Being able to grant access to folks is amazing, and being able to give temporary access for a vendor weekend or something to folks will, I think, will help, will allow the staff to utilize their time more effectively once this is up and running. So I appreciate your answers, and I don't have any more questions.
Counselor Freely?
So just for clarification, like, I guess I understand the necessity for, security for external access to the building, but so you're saying we're going to be increasing electronic accessibility throughout the interior of the building as well, and I'm just questioning as to whether or not that's necessary or overkill.
Right now, if you look at our staff's key rings when they have for the building, some of our staff's key rings could cause them to need to go to a chiropractor. They have so many keys. Going to this type system, you would just have your swipe card to gain access. Also gives us the ability that we can program different people, different access throughout the building. For example, we could assign a ID card to the police department that gives them 24-hour access to every single door. At the same point, we could assign a card to our figure skating coach that gives them access just to the doors that they should have access to, the coach's room, an equipment room, the office. We would be able to determine who has access to which room as opposed to giving out keys.
So it'll be essentially eliminating key rings
It's
and
not every door.
And it is not every door. We've carefully gone through and targeted which doors would benefit from having a system like this put on it. And some doors, such as internal emergency fire doors, we can't put this on, just due to fire code regulations.
okay. So we're creating additional security and then efficiency for
Yes.
accessibility throughout the building for both employees and people that utilize it.
Yes.
And then one other question, was this the lowest electrical bid from Parsons, 75 grand for that?
This is Eric Wedge with DSGW Architects. I will say that when we first saw this bid, they have reduced their labor by 2 hours per door. It came in at 10.5 hours per door. So we did our due diligence with reviewing it. And we do that with every change that comes before the council here so that we review it and we make sure that they are completely understanding the scope. It is within, as what our mechanical or electrical engineer says, within industry standards. It seemed high to all of us to start with, but because of the size of the building, the length of runs that they have to do, those costs per door to do the rough-ins and the electrical connections are within reason. So, and I'd just like to add to the access control, now is the time to do this, because if we do this 6 months from now, 2 years from now, you can probably expect this number to double because you will have interior finishes and that will have to be disturbed. Door frames will have to be sometimes actually taken out and replaced rather than prepped for the new upgraded hardware. And if you have a disgruntled employee or an employee that leaves you, Brian can deactivate their badge immediately and you will not have that person have access. Or if you have a questionable coach that you need to quickly dismantle it, versus in the future, you would have to rekey your whole building for the access that you gave them. So it does seem like a large cost right now. We did put in original minimal access control to all the perimeter exterior doors, but this was just an added bonus to all the interior doors. And some of these doors are relative to the convention center, so that the convention center, you can say, you have access to your room from such and such a time. Britt or Brian could distribute that card to them, but they would only get access during that time, and then that card gets deactivated, and they turn it into City Hall. So it does become, It's hard to, the cost now is hard to evaluate what the labor costs of Brian running around keys and opening doors and staff is truly going to be, but this is a long-term savings for you, for the council over time.
I just lost my train of thought on what I was going to ask. You can come back to me unless we're done with this issue at this point in time. Thank you.
Sure.
I have one question, Mayor, for Eric, if I may.
Yes, Counselor Paulson, and then we'll go to Counselor Bearable. Counselor Paulson.
Thank you so much. Eric, is this an internet-based application?
This will be server-based through your security consultant who is yet to be hired through FF&E. We met with Permar, who is your preferred vendor, who is doing the City Hall system. We met with Brian. We met with our door hardware supplier. We met with Kraus Anderson. We know that this system will integrate with whichever security system you end up going with. Yes, so it is cloud-based.
So if say, for instance, we'd had, okay, so Virginia's been known to have spotty internet. So will that interfere in any way?
I don't believe so, because part of the FF&E budget was doing increased internet throughout this building, and that will be a discussion point for Brian and Britt in the future. But yes, we did meet with your communications and your computer people, and we have all those locations demarked in the building.
In addition, the server for this system will be located there in our security room in the miners, or in the MEC.
Okay, so I've actually been in a situation where either the power or the internet went out and the entire building was locked out, including the elevator service, because everything was run that way. So are we protected against that if something were to happen, whether it was the electric or the internet went down, that there would still be access?
Yes, all of these doors also do have key access.
Key bypass.
And we would be able to use those keys in the event of an emergency or a power outage.
Okay, thank you for that.
And then I'd just like to add, all the life safety systems for your building are backed up by an emergency generator that is part of this project. So your life safety systems will not be compromised for this building in the event of a power outage.
Okay, Counselor Bearable.
Brian, I just have a question. The vetting of the individuals that are going to be having access, how strict are you going to be? How are you going to vet them? What are you going to do so we make sure? There's been problems in the past over all the years I've been on this council with stuff disappearing out of the miners, other things. So
Yes,
just explain very simply what your vetting system would be.
I do not like giving out keys. So we will identify those who have a need for a key, not a want for a key, or a need for access, not just a want for access. And then they will have policies and procedures that they have to adhere to in order to keep their key. Obviously, staff is going to have the keys. Our police and fire department will have the keys. But if we deem that we want to give a key to you, we would have a vetting process of, do you need this access or is it a want? And then we would sit down with you and go over the rules of, you are being given this access for this. This is what you have to comply with to keep this access. If you don't comply with that, say you decide, oh, well, it's 2 a.m. and I have been given access to an exterior door. I want to go in and ice skate by myself for myself. Well, then we would end up revoking your access because you're abusing it.
Okay, that sounds like you're going to have a good policy system in place eventually when you get all this done, so.
Yes, and we have
I'm
not
all-
hammered out all the policies
No,
for this
I'm-
yet.
I'm all for a system like this because you need to do this just for staff's time alone, I've seen those big rings these guys carry around. Holy man, I don't know how they can figure out which key belongs to what.
Okay, is there anything else on this topic number one?
One more question. I forgot.
Counselor Freely.
I was going to ask about the technology support. So you're going to need that. Are we going to be leasing from a third party, for example? And what's the approximate cost to support this type of system?
My recommendation would be to do a lease because in doing a lease, whoever we lease it from is, part of the lease is they maintain and do the upgrades to the equipment. Prime example would be here at City Hall. A lot of the keypads that we have here at City Hall, the city has owned those. Well, they're not that old. They're less than 10 years old, but they're obsolete systems already. We can't get replacement parts, which is why we're going through the process of upgrading that system at this point. So my recommendation would be to do a lease so that whoever we are working with has to continue to maintain and do those upgrades when a door hardware piece fails or needs upgrading.
But we don't know if that's going to be $1,000 a month or $8,000 a month or.
Ballpark, we will have an upfront charge, which we expect to exceed the state minimum so that it will have to go out for bid. So we're probably looking at well over a six-figure initial setup charge for this type system. And then, yes, there would be a monthly fee that would be associated with it.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm going to weigh in now. I think it's premature to talk about a lease and how we're going to work and what lease is going to go where, what's going to happen. We have to break that down. Badge and control systems are operated internally. They're also operated externally. Depends upon who's going to issue the badges, who's going to issue the ID. I'm going to give the example at the airport. We put this similar system in, state-of-the-art system at that time. We had badge access and control system. They had a lease with the company that did all the hardware, did all the maintenance, did all that kind of stuff. That's one thing. But as far as issuing the badges, controlling the interior of the access was done internal of the hardware and the process. That I'm with that. But as far as issuing it and having an entire lease, I think that's open for discussion moving forward. I think that's your plan to do so.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And when we do the bidding documents, we'll specify our criteria of what we want.
Right.
We haven't even started that yet. We just
Right.
need to get the doors in place first.
Right, okay, so thank you. Okay, now, anything else, any other questions about item number one on the agenda? Councilor Bearable.
No, I was just gonna make a motion.
Okay, well, council action,
I'm gonna
please.
make a mo,
Oh, you want to give a little,
Yeah, I do believe this is a house that the county owns, and we're working in partnership with them. However, we have to do the asbestos removal as part of our project. We bill the county for the cost,
yeah, we'll do the asbestos, we'll then bill the county for that cost, right?
as with all their other costs related, the fill. They now require grass seeding and fencing, so they get charged for all of that information, as well as the staff time to demolish the house.
And if the cost to the city is?
$3,200.
Thank you very much, and that's reimbursable through the county?
Sorry, $3,400. It's reimbursable, yes.
Thank you very much. Looking for council action?
I'll move the resolution for asbestos.
Councilor Freely moves to approve the resolution for the asbestos removal at 406 7th Avenue South in the amount of 30,
Let me clarify. Pam, can you clarify which one they wanted to use? The resolution has ACCT, but they have the higher dollar amount?
Let's see. I think it is whatever the lesser one is. I'm not sure. I'd have to check with Christina.
well, let's
She
find
sent
that
the
out.
Information to
Let's-
me for the packet.
Yeah, let's find that out
I'm
before
guessing it
we,
would be a Baytech
3,200.
if they're cheaper. 3,200.
okay, the motion was to approve.
Oh, I see in the top line there. Okay.
So the motion in support
Yeah,
is,
I'm guessing it is a Baytech. We can update the resolution to change that top line there.
okay, so the motion is to approve the resolution for asbestos removal at 406 7th Avenue South in the amount of $3,200, and that's for a Baytech, is that correct? Okay, very good, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Just want to point out that it doesn't look like our live streaming's working, but we are recording, so we'll get it on there.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay,
Charlie was an aye also. I don't know if you got that. Item number 3. Thank you.
Who made the second on that?
motion by Counselor Freely, second by Counselor Barnzelli. Thank you.
Item number 3 is approve the consumer price index increase for People Service Inc. contract beginning January 1st, 2021. And in your letter, you have in your packet, you have a letter from Chad Meyer, from the president, stating that the increase is from $23,686 to $23,994 for the year.
And I remember in the previous council, it was Counselor Jorgensen who suggested that we go with the consumer price index as opposed to the following the ASME contract like it did before. The question that we had during that discussion, and I would bring that up for some consideration about the consumer price index. Yes, it might help us now, but what happens if it significantly rises in the future? That's going to be a significant increase for People Service if that's in the contract. So my question is that still a concern, or is the increase that now in this particular contract is low? But if we're looking at the consumer price index, that could skyrocket at any time, and then we'd be obligated to honor the contract if it was still in place, right? Okay, so is this a 2-year or a 3-year contract with People Service?
I believe it was 5.
5-year.
A 5-year contract, so if we approve the 5-year contract, it's based on the consumer price index?
So we're just, today, the contract is approved for 5 years. We're just approving the increase for the year. So when the contract was approved, it didn't have dollar amounts for every year.
Right.
It just had the base dollar amount in 2016 plus consumer price index these years. So we are on year 4 going into year 5.
We are going on year 4, so this is okay then. Okay, thank you. Thanks for that clarification, Britt. Counselor Bearable.
I had the same question, so.
Yep, so we're good. It was just we have 1 year left, and we could renegotiate after
Next year, they'll
that.
be coming back to us to renegotiate.
Okay, so
And I
that,
believe,
okay,
remembering back, we had a long discussion back then
Mm-hmm.
about 3-year to 5-year contract, increasing the terms. That was a big discussion.
right.
And we got to this consumer price index at that time.
Okay, so that's something we'll revisit at the expiration of the contract next year. Very good, thank you. So looking for council action. Counselor Freely.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's good. Counselor Bearable.
Yeah, I'll move that we agree to this last portion of the contract for the 1.3% increase based on a consumer price index.
A motion by Counselor Bearable. Is there support? Support by Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is to discuss the purchase of a 2021 Ford Police Interceptor for the police department.
Is this money that comes out of COVID, or is this money that comes out of insurance settlement? Sherry?
Mayor, councilors, this is in the budget for '21. The problem here is we need to have approval to go ahead and start purchase. We
Right.
won't take possession until 6
After.
months.
Very good.
And unfortunately, with COVID, if we wait until after the year, we wouldn't get this until probably September of next year.
Okay, this is the budgeted capital equipment for the police department.
Correct.
Thank you. Counselor Johnson.
Mayor, I'm just curious to know why we're purchasing as opposed to leasing this one.
I will have to see if it's purchase or lease, but we need to, this is a new vehicle, so we need to let them know we are in the process of
Okay, so,
buying the vehicle.
so we don't necessarily.
I'll have to double check, but I'm sure it's leased.
Okay, then I would move to approve the moving forward with purchasing, leasing a new police squad.
A motion by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
I'll support, Mayor.
Support by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Item number 5, review the 2020 proposed budget information.
Sherry, you want to give us a little recap, please?
Sure. I did give everybody the summary of the updated budget. And I'm just going to briefly go through the line items that were changed. If any of you want to come in and see me about line-by-line items for each department, feel free, just let me know, I've got it here. So in the revenue department, other revenues received, there was a little bit of an increase in the SRO income. Also, too, we seen a adjustment in the transfer of reserves to general fund of 414 that actually went down. And I'll explain on the expense side. But out of that 414,000, we are allocating 40,000 to the OPEB investment. So I actually have a Moody's rating update call next week. So I'm going to bring this out that we are actually taking some of that money that we're expecting back for the Highway 53, 5.4 million, and putting it back, but taking some of that and actually investing in our OPEB. So on the expense side, we did update the fireworks to include both the 4th of July and then another one around this time of year. So we increased that. Let's see what else. Yeah, looking at the police, yeah, those are leased vehicles there. Pretty much everything stayed. We made a couple adjustments to put an extra mechanic in there in the payroll. So, other than that, that was it.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. We'll go to the council for questions or comments. First, Counselor Bearable.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Counselor Paulson, any questions or comments with respect to on item 5, the review of the 2021 proposed budget?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Beyondich.
I'm good as well, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other further comments from the council as these changes are being, the 2021 budget is being adjusted accordingly? We have the information before us and we're continuing to move forward. No resolution or vote is required here. So, okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next item agenda. Britt?
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is review the hiring policy.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to note from my perspective, you know, I know we've had some significant discussion about the hiring policy, and it continues to change over and over again. And I understand the concerns people have, but in this particular instance, I think the hiring policy is solid, it's in place. I think that if there's some questions about the city planner position in wanting to review the applications, maybe sit in on the interviews, I think that could be something that could be worded. I don't know if that's necessarily needs to be in the hiring policy, but I'll open that up for further discussion. I'm fine with the way the policy is written. So I'll look for additional discussion with respect to that. Does any counselor have any questions or comments or suggestions about the hiring policy as it currently is written?
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, Counselor Paulson.
Thank you. I just have to get back into the agenda.
Sure.
The only, I guess, concern that I had is regarding regular employees. And if we are basically, overhauling the engineering department, maybe if we have any new positions, new job descriptions, new positions, that be changed under the AFSCME police officer and fire employee. Like we had referred to in the last go around with the planner and developer.
Absolutely.
So it
Perhaps
would be
I can-
under, I'm sorry, we're in the middle of our steam conversion this morning. So,
Yeah, I definitely can write something up underneath regular employees where it says that if the position is newly created, that it will have 2 interviews. Is that,
I'm just trying to think. So I think it would be under item number 5, review applications and select 3 to 5 candidates. So under that heading, if you scroll over to AFSCME police officer fire, maybe we could include like under the, let's see, item number 5, under the department heads. So have it reflect in that way if the council is agreeable to that.
okay. I can write something up and bring it to the council next week.
Okay, could you write something up for that change as requested by Councillor Paulson? Okay, thank you. Anything else, Councillor Paulson?
No, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor, and I would echo that, having that, just because it's a new position and the planning person being an AFSCME employee, but their responsibilities as an AFSCME employee are different than, say, the employees at the miners, or, there's a different component to what we're asking them to do. And I would agree that if, at a level like that, having at least the ability for the council to weigh in if needed, I think is good, and then it clarifies it. If we're creating a new, at the miners there, or at the MEC, there's MECMIN, there's going to be several new positions, and those positions are going to be more of maintenance and janitorial as opposed to planning and coordinating. So there's a different type of skill set needed there. So I think that it's prudent to at least have the option or the trigger on the list to say, hey, is this something that needs to be done because it's a new position? So I would agree with that, and will support that completely.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Johnson. Anything else other than that specific change that you're asking our city administrator to write up and make an adjustment to include into the hiring policy for us to review and approve? Or do you need that in the form of a motion, or this can just be a directive? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor Paulson. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Anything else on this particular topic here? Okay, thank you. Britt?
The next item on the agenda is number 7, nomination to the RAMS Committee.
Is
RAMS Board, I
this-
should say.
And just for the clarification for the general public, is this something we do on an annual basis?
Technically, Mayor, if you look at the list of the terms that expired, my term has not expired yet.
Right.
If you look, so I'm still on, at least for another year. It's done annually by RAMS, so once my term expires next year, we would probably need to look at a new representative. Steve?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Johnson.
If memory serves, I've been appointed to be on the board of the commission, and I am currently serving in that position. Charlie, when we had that discussion a while ago, you weren't interested in continuing. Oh, this is RAM, sorry, wrong organizations, too many organizations, never mind.
Okay, yeah, this will be
The one that meets in Duluth, the ARDC.
ARDC.
Too many acronyms, I apologize.
No,
That's-
and I
so-
gave that one up, you're right.
So this is the RAMS position, and the reason I asked that is because I know there's another year remaining on Councillor Baraboo's term, and unless we wanted to make a significant change, I don't believe there's any necessity to review item 7 unless another counselor has a question or comment about that. Counselor Freely.
I fully support the continuation of Charlie in that position, although I am an alternate with the Rams, and I'm not going to be shy saying that should Charlie opt out at the end of his term, that I would be interested in being on the Rams commission.
Thank you, Counselor Freely. We'll have then one more year for Counselor Baraboo to serve, and at the end of that term, then we would be nominating an elected official representing the city to that position.
And the
Counselor
alternate is,
Baraboo.
and the alternate is just a choice of the city council, and we've already made that choice. So Counselor Friedlib is still for next year.
Correct. All right. Any further questions or comments regarding item 7? We do have a clarification that Counselor Baraboo's his term doesn't expire till the end of next year. Any other comments or questions about item 7? Okay, thank you. Britt?
I have no further items.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any, other items of concern? Counselor Johnson?
Mayor, and I apologize that this is going to touch some nerves, but I need to express some frustration with plowing again, both here at City Hall, which I believe it's been taken care of, but haven't been told. One of the things I'd like to see is the written policy of when and where things are done. We have a new Public Works Director, and it'd be really nice to be able to tell people who have concerns where they're starting plowing and why and when. Personally, and for some people on 8th Street, I was diligent and I got my sidewalk plowed and taken care of within the first 24 hours. And 2 days later, they came and plowed, must have been 3 days because it wasn't right away, my side of the street and put all that snow on the sidewalk, and now it's ice on 8th Street. I struggle not understanding that when they're plowing, because of the way 8th Street was constructed, they can't drop the blade and plow the sidewalk in the street at the same time. So now in front of my house, which was clear after the last 6 inches of snow, I have ice that I can't remove right now unless I go out there with the chopper. And I did know they must have come by this morning in the little plow and did some of the clearing. But we ask, our ordinance says that within 24 hours you need to shovel. And those of us who do then get punished because the plow comes by 48 hours later and drops ice and snow. And I guess we have a new Public Works Director. This is an opportunity to provide information and communicate with the citizens that this is how it's going to work. And I guess that's what I'd like to see is that on even days, and I don't know what the plan is, I'd like to see that. On even days, they start on the outside of town, the higher number streets, and they plow towards the center of town. On the odd days, they start and I know they're diligent on alleys but I feel like if they're in such a rush to get it done, that it's not being done quality. It's getting done and then it's done. And then we're digging out and so it's a frustration I have. It's a frustration I've heard from many citizens, and I'm sure the rest of you have. I would just like to have some information to present to people when they're venting their frustration that this is the plan moving forward.
I suggest that we bring the snow plowing policy back to Street and Alley for review. It's been a while since we reviewed it. Let's get it back to review one more time, take a look at it, and then we can make some changes and updates as needed.
I would appreciate that. I would make that motion to bring back the policy so to be reviewed at Street and Alleys and then at Committee of the Whole meeting.
Yeah, and I would like to, if you could add to your
I'll support that for discussion.
a motion by Counselor Johnson and supported by Counselor Paulson to bring back to Street and Alley to review the plowing policy. I would like to add that our Public Works Director be there as well. As you go, as whoever's going to be running that meeting, I forget who the chairman of Street and Alley is. I think it's, is it Charlie? Street and Alley, it'd be Street and Alley, yeah. So, okay, very good. Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to ask that the counselors also be included in the time and the date of the meeting so we could zoom in to at least listen and have some comment if that would be appropriate.
Sure. I think the notices are given to all. And,
All council meeting notices, all meeting notices should be given to all council members.
yes, and to make sure that gets done, Counselor Paulson.
Thank you.
Okay, and we should probably do that sooner than later, obviously. Counselor Bearable?
Yeah, I was going to suggest, next week is fine. We've got another item to take care of that you got this morning. So we need to schedule a meeting.
Okay, so it's been moved and supported to set a street and alley meeting to review the plowing policy within the city of Virginia and include all counselors in the notice and invite our department head in charge to discuss any changes or recommendations or adjustments to the plowing policy and to update it as appropriate. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Counselor
Just
Bearable?
one thing. We'll make sure that Pam contacts each of the street and alley people to make sure the date that's chosen, they're available.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else that come before the committee of the whole meeting today? Britt, anything more to add? Pam, do you have anything you need to bring up from the clerk's perspective?
No, I don't. Thank you,
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you. Brian, our city attorney says no, nothing further to add. Okay, Sherry? Okay, well, thank you. I guess that concludes our business on the committee of the whole meeting today. So we'll call this meeting and to adjournment at 9:50 a.m. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Stand adjourned.